Well, I'm on my way. Wait for it. Hello there. Totally different perspective today. Yes, Charlotte Giblin here. Welcome to another Seeing Clearly. Now, I want to do something completely different for you today. And, well, it's not completely different for me, but this will be, I think, a really interesting experiment in my final third stage of this whole idea of seeing clearly and personal development wrapped together with artistic practice and development. So this is the letting go stage. So I've moved through the seeing clearly, seeing things as they really are, and learning how to translate realistic scenes onto paper in 2 dimensions. And then the second part, I've developed my skills with a lot of practice and learned a great deal about colour mixing and a lot of different acrylic techniques. Certainly being a teacher has helped that along the way. And the third stage is about letting go of any negative judgmental voices that you might have going on in your head, letting go of the notion of perfectionism, which is something that I have been guilty of for such a long time. Perfectionism can help drive us to a degree, but I feel that certainly in my case, it became really unhealthy. The notion of holding myself to such a high standard that anything lower than what I perceived to be perfection and the end result, I would give myself a really hard time about that, as opposed to being able to really enjoy the learning process. So this is a stage in which I've now, ironically, gained the confidence to have fun. And I think a lot of people miss that stage, or maybe if you're lucky, you start at the fun stage and then want to develop your skills a little bit more deeply and learn new techniques, and then you can feel more confident from a technical perspective and have a play with the paint without it just turning into a complete mud bath. So we're looking down on me today because there's certainly this first stage of the canvas, I'll probably be using a fair bit of water, and I want to be able to maintain the integrity of the effects and the paint on the surface rather than it all just dripping off. And if you've seen any of my painting tutorial videos before, or certainly if you've come across the online workshops that I've got on my website, I'm such a believer, as you know from my videos, in real time, real life, and this is how it is. I leave the responsibility in your hands if you speed through the video double time or however you want to watch these videos. But I think it's really important to share the step-by-step process of creation, because it can be really helpful to watch somebody else working and not just like a sped up or an edited version, to actually see the decision making as it's happening. And it might give you some ideas about how you want to have a go at painting, or it might give you ideas in the opposite direction, like, oh, I don't want to have a go at that, which is just as helpful. And with the online courses that I do, it's very much a real-time discussion. As an artist, I'm showing you exactly how I'm colour mixing, how I'm using the tools, talking through every decision, including all of the mistakes, and then how to get around those perceived mistakes and make different decisions. And I think that is a part of the process which is invaluable, because it gives you a different set of words and a different set of ideas for what to do when you're painting. It's not just following exactly a step-by-step. I give lots of different ideas and options for what you can do with your own decision making. So this is part of that process as well. I'm going to, I will be talking a little bit as I'm painting, and this first stage might take 20 minutes before there's nothing else I can do because it's really wet, and then we'll wait a couple of days, and then I can follow on with showing you what I would do next. And I have an idea of what I want to paint. I'm still thinking about landscape forms, and I'm very interested in creating something which has a sense of realism. So keeping in mind the structure of light and dark, and there might be a story of a journey in there. There might be a pathway, very much thinking about light and dark. And I've chosen my colours in advance, chiefly because I really like working with these colours and I know what's going to happen with them. But this is something which, again, comes from a great deal of practice. And I'm not going to talk through all of the reasons why I've picked these colours and how they're going to work together. That is really just colour mixing technical stuff. And I've got off camera, I've got a whole bunch of tools and other paints ready. White, of course, there'll be lots of white. Paint scrapers, palette knives, some sponges, and I will probably do this. So I tend to work as if the painting is upside down. So you'll be looking at it the right way up in theory. So there should be some sky up here. Now this is loose canvas, but I just wrapped it around a drawing board that I've got just to give it a little bit more structure and to hold it in place. And the size of the canvas here is about 900 by 1200 mils, which is approximately 3 feet by 4 feet. And I would usually work on stretched canvas, but since I've got a large roll of loose canvas, it's great for experimenting with large works, and if they are successful, then I can get them stretched afterwards. Now, one thing about acrylic is, and it should give you so much confidence with everything that you do, and I say this to my students all the time, you can paint over anything you don't like. And no matter how textured, even if you varnished the painting, you can remove varnish with sandpaper or with a bit of terps and continue painting on that canvas. So you should allow yourself to have a little bit of freedom and not worry too much about making mistakes. So normally when I'm painting, I would have loud music on to just stop me from overthinking. But equally, if I'm aware that you're watching, then that will distract me somewhat from what I'm doing. And if I have loud music on, you won't be able to hear what I'm saying. I'm sure there'll be copyright issues with the music as well. So let's just get started. Now, from a technical standpoint, obviously, it's really difficult lighting acrylic while it's being painted because anything wet, of course, the light will be reflecting off it. So I have lights at sort of 45 degrees, not directly over, which hopefully will minimize some of the shine. And I'm doing this on the floor rather than on a table because I actually find it better for my back to be bending with my legs rather than constantly bending over the table, which used to give me really bad back problems. And I will obviously be getting in the way of the shot periodically, but I think it will be helpful for you to be able to see just in real time how, from a distanced perspective, how it starts to unfold and some of the decisions that I'm making. And this first stage is really going to be about creating a background layer and having the story in the painting start to emerge. It may be a finished painting, but probably not. Probably not. I do like adding extra layers afterwards. And the most important thing is that even though I know you're watching, I really don't mind what you think in the nicest possible way. This is going to be about me having some fun with some colours that I love and really happy to invite you along to watch. Okay, so nimble as anything. Let's get up. Not 25 anymore. Right, So those are the 4 colours that I've started with. As I said, I'm going to be in and out, and I'm going to work relatively quickly. So I'm just going to start with primary yellow. And I do actually really like being able to be pretty random with these first marks and kind of going then with some Piroli orange, going with what is created, getting some darks in there straight away. Bit of whoops, nice big squelch, quinacridone magenta. And let's get some phthalo green, blue shade at the bottom. Let's see what happens with this. And maybe just a little bit of green gold. So knowing that these are going to mix in a certain way, but also not being completely, I don't actually know what's going to happen, just 2 normal paint scrapers. So I'm quite sure that the light balance will be having an absolute field day at the moment with that super bright yellow. A lot, I think, is to do with the process that you can watch. Let's get some real brightness in there. I want to keep that section bright and on its own just at the moment. So let's start forming some shapes through here, leaving a bit of white space and knowing that I was going to get some real darks at the bottom with the magenta and the green. That magenta and the phthalo green mixed together gives the most delicious black, or the appearance of black anyway. Different scraper just to avoid too much mud mixing. So these are fluid acrylics and they go really far and they're very, very, there's quite a high quality of pigment. So I can get an incredibly rich tone. Right, so already, there's some shapes of potential hills and mountains coming out. There's quite a lot of paint still left on there. So I would always just use a little bit. Just fill in some of those spaces. Right, now, I think, let's get some thick white up here. Let's think about the sky. There's obviously a lot of sunshine going on with the loads of white, as you can see. And I feel the need now. I've got a tub of diarylide yellow. I've seen this called acrylamide before as well. So let's just get a few. This is really thick as opposed to the fluid. Let's just get a bit of that in. Feel the need. Maybe just a couple of little pink dots over there. Now the first thing, I'm just going to get a slightly larger palette knife. Keeping the white separate from everything else just at the moment. Now scraping a little bit harder so it brings out the yellow and mixes in. Start to bring this down slightly. say, I'm not actually thinking about anything. I've sort of forgotten you're there already. I'm just watching the tool move across the canvas, and I absolutely love just the texture of paint and what the absolutely gorgeous different combinations of texture you can get. And I'm just looking at that. I'm really just enjoying the whole process of just playing with those marks. But it took me ages to be able to get to that stage, you know. If you saw the video about me standing there with the brush, waiting for it to do something, I didn't have the confidence just to enjoy the process. I thought I was supposed to be doing it a certain way. And we do have these expectations, don't we, of ourselves? Well, I certainly did. So me doing it essentially upside down kind of removes any specific landscape expectations I might have. And it just allows me to really appreciate the mark making. And maybe because of my pottery background, I just enjoy texture so much. I know that it can be just fascinating watching somebody else work. I used to absolutely love that and wish that I could have seen more artists working. You get different ideas, the way to use tools and what's okay to do if you feel like you need permission, as I certainly did. And when I've done this stage, you know, there'll be all of the stages where this layer is dry, and I can start working on it the right way up and start seeing if I want to create different, you know, actual sort of stories. Now, I don't know how much secondary noise you can hear, but there's a lot of traffic going past outside. Now, how about that little bit of pink? Oh God, that's just so gorgeous. I love this pink. Almost like maybe there's, I'm just having to hold the canvas up there because the edge of the board is creating quite a ridge. Almost like there's, you know, a sunset or a dawn or something. Scrape some of that off. Where does that want to go? Let's put that down here. A very, very light touch over the top of it. I love palette knife so much for that you can vary the pressure that you're using, and it totally changes the nature of the marks. I've just got to be a little bit careful of how much paint is appearing on the palette knife for then when I use it back over the top of these layers so I don't get too much mud appearing. Right. Yeah, there's definite edge happening there with the board. That's okay. Now, oh God, there's a very, very clear valley happening through there, isn't there? That's interesting. Okay. So, let's try a bit of fluid white right through the middle and over there. And how about, oh, actually I was going to put some Naples yellow in there, but I just, my body went, nah, let's have a little bit more this green. Now, what happens if I then, just got a makeup brush here and some water. So let's just splash some water over the top of that. Now, what if I tip the canvas up? And just get one of these back again. Because of the water there, now we're getting a totally different look and a feel. And the difference, the sort of viscosity of the paint and the water then create all these amazing textures which can't quite bind. You know, I'm not mixing the water in with the paint. So we're starting to get really different feel. Now, how about if I carve in some of that yellow back, expose some of those incredible colours underneath. I'm just getting like layers of landscape. Like you're seeing what's underneath. Again, very, very light. I love the sunshine coming through there. It's like these are sort of fields emerging. It's incredibly symmetrical in the middle, isn't it? That's quite remarkable. I normally would be really keen to avoid that. I just feel like I need some more dark over there. Going against the grain. See how it's catching on some of those ridges of wet paint. That's making some really interesting sort of foresty shapes. I like that. Have a bit more of that. That was worth experimenting with. Again, just going where the random blobs lie. As it's getting sort of further away, marks might get a little bit smaller. Felt like I need to sort of cut across it that way. Like there was too much going in one direction. Oh yeah, look at that lovely yellow coming out again. That's the wonderful thing about all this layering, that you have these incredible colours underneath that you can expose. Yeah, I want a bit more of that. Again, there's a confidence in using the tools which just develops over time. Really not being afraid to make a pig's ear of it. So I'm actually really liking those colour combinations up there, although that's totally going to alter what I was envisaging before with that massive sky. So maybe these are turning into mountain shapes which are in the distance. Again, there might be a fair bit that I alter and edit once it starts drying. But starting, oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, there's definitely, see how the eye already picks out real landscape forms, and we start to see things that, you know, we form our own idea of what's there. I love what's going on here, but those tree forms are just starting to look a little bit too regimented. So I'm actually making a conscious decision. A few more over here, just to break up the pattern. I always say to my students that the eye loves to pick out a pattern. So if you have, you know, really even rows of trees or whatever it is, especially if something in nature, and our eye is always looking for patterns and shapes that we can recognize, and they can often be really off-putting, especially if you don't mean them to be there. I'd just like to apologise if I'm breathing really heavily in your ear. It's actually a little bit more athletic than I think. And it's the summer, so it's really hot. There we go. Not that I'm complaining about it being warm. There we go. So using this really dark phthalo green blue to create some really deep shadows. There's going to be some very interesting shapes emerging with that story there. And what the eye starts to see, just incredible. I love that about abstraction. Let's bring a little bit of interest down there. Right, yeah. There's a landscape of some kind, for sure. Yep, definitely something happening up here in the distance. Now there is. Yeah. And as I'm mixing the paint with the white, of course, it makes it look a lot further away, which is ticking all my realism boxes, wanting to make something which has a bit of a realistic structure, while still leaving plenty of room for the imagination. Okay, right. Maybe one little additional blob of white. Get some brightness in there, and I'm going to need a clean tool. There we go. I can start adding in all kinds of additional lights and darks when this is dry. Now, do I feel that that is going to be what's going on there? Okay. Almost looks like that's too much in the middle. this is going to be quite an interesting distance area of texture, or something is going to be building up there. Oh, there we go. My hand wanted to make quite a jaggedy shape, like there's sort of rock formations. So obviously there's something else happening there, but just the tool wanted to do it. So that will be, I don't know whether you can tell that from your distance, but there's a ridge has now appeared in the paint. Yeah, and I will be able to build up some different textures. I already see my hand just wants to make those little marks. Oh, this is funny, my glasses are steaming up. I don't know if you can see. Oh, the heat and the enthusiasm, the passion for the, oh, there we go. Some interesting colours mixing. See, that is another thing. I mean, once you have a sort of a confidence with a certain small palette of colours, and you know that you're not going to get the hideous combinations every time each time you use them or mix something by mistake, you can confidently just layer over all these different colours and get constant, different, unusual colours. All right, gosh, my hand is just wanting to keep going over there. So that's a bit of what I thought was going to be sky. No more. So clearly there's going to be a valley, something emerging through there with a whatever. That's the beauty of this medium. Right, I'm getting to the point where I think I need to leave this and allow it to dry and do its thing. Yeah, definitely some interesting distant shapes happening there, which is going to create a very different look. Maybe there's even, gosh, does that even want to be flat? There's some kind of, maybe there's a lake or something there. There's even a coastline. Who knows? But I want to make that straight. And this. Now, you no longer have to, you don't have to have any reason why you want to make certain lines and marks. And that was always what I found really challenging, that there wasn't a specific reason for doing something. I can work back on that, make more sense if it needs to. Okay. Just leaving it open like that for now. What does this want to do? Okay, let's bring some of that green over. Yeah, those shapes are changing massively. Okay, yeah, there's a sort of a flatness of a land going into a rocky landscape up there. And definite shaded kind of valley through here. There's some really interesting areas starting to form. Right. Now, time to step away. You know, people ask me all the time, like, when do you stop? When do you know? Oh, nearly fell into it then. When do you know when to stop? And the answer is, well, I always tell people to keep pushing the painting beyond where you think you should stop, because you never know what kind of magic is going to emerge if you just take that little risk, try something else. But essentially, I think it's when the painting I always say it's when the painting stops talking to you. So you start thinking about something else, or you notice that, Now I'm noticing that my back is getting a little bit sore from the bending over. I think, okay, now my body is overriding my creative desires. So I need to listen to my body and step away from the painting. And look at me not paying any attention to that. I'll regret it later. I just wanted to make those vertical marks there. Right. That is a very interesting start. Thank you. Look how sweaty and red and excited I am now. Okay. Yeah, I wonder what's going to happen in the next stage. Hope you got some ideas, a little bit of inspiration maybe. And go and have some fun playing. I'll see you later.